What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of MUT Tips. I'm your host, Sean Taylor from the Made Up Theater, and let's jump into today's topic, making your partner look good. So improv is the art of the ensemble because when you're on stage, you are not alone. You are up there with your scene partner. You are up there with your team. And thus, one of the most important rules that we emphasize in improv is to make your partner look good. Because if you make your partner look good, he or she will make you look good, and then suddenly the entire ensemble looks great. So here are a few things to take into consideration when making your partner look good. So the first thing I'm going to talk about today is a little bit counter to the point of this video, which is how to make your scene partner look good. And that's to treat yourself first. Because when you get on stage, it's a clean slate. We don't know what's happening. We don't know who these characters are. We're going to gradually figure it out together. But when you get on stage, you are a clean slate as well. So I always say take a few moments to establish who you are as a character. You know, what's your point of view? What's your emotional state? How do you move? How do you talk? You know, once you figure those things out, it makes it so much easier to actually transfer your choices onto your scene partner and then make them look good. So start with yourself and then move on to your partner. So another thing that you can do on stage to make your scene partner look better is to compliment them or match them. A lot of scenes can start with conflict right off the bat, where the improvisers, as opposed to matching each other, they combat each other and conflict with each other. So an example of this would be maybe someone starts a scene as a leader of a band with a guitar talking to the audience like, "Hey, welcome Cleveland, we're about to start the greatest show in the universe right now." And, maybe they're the absolute worst band in the town, but to them, they're great. Someone might jump on stage and as opposed to complimenting them, they combat them by going, "Boo!" They're being an audience member who's heckling them. And then suddenly the scene just becomes about that, as opposed to, who are these characters? That character is interesting. Let's see who they are a little bit more before we get into this conflict. I always say earn conflict, don't start with it. So another way you can approach this is to compliment that, and maybe a second person jumps on stage and becomes a drummer. It's like, "Yeah, we've been practicing this song for a decade. We're gonna debut it tonight in Cleveland." And then suddenly, we have a nice, better stage picture. It's no longer just one person on stage as a band, it's two people. And then a third person can come on as a bass player, and so on and so forth. If we compliment, then we can build a much more vivid picture. So another way to make your partner look good is to just give them gifts on stage. Give them information or give them ways to, emphasize their character traits. If there's a character on stage who always jumps into an intense flashback every time he or she receives a picture of a specific memory, keep giving them pictures as the scene progresses. Obviously you could take breaks, but always go back to that pattern because that's kind of the game of the scene. We want to keep stimulating these character traits that your partner has established. We want to make them look good because that's a great trait. Let's keep giving to them. I actually talked about giving gifts in improv in episode 21 of MUT Tips, so you can look at that for more information. But giving gifts in improv is the best way to make your improv scene partner look good on stage. So my last bit of advice about this subject, and it's pretty important, and that's to play with all different types of improvisers. Because when we're out there, we might judge skill levels. We might think, I really only want to play with people who are equal to or better than me. Because if I play with those people, then I'm going to get better over time. And yeah, that's true to an extent, but it's not true overall. Because if you play with people who are new to improv, who are inexperienced, who are, have been doing it for a long time, but it's not quite clicking yet, if you can play with those people and you can do well with them and make them look good on stage, then you are growing as an improviser. There's a very talented improviser out there named Tara DeFrancisco, and she actually had a show where she would pull a random name from a bowl, and that person from the audience would come on stage and do an improvised set with her for 30 minutes or more. And the person's skill level usually ranged. Sometimes they were people who've never done improv before, or just a few weeks. And she would do an incredible show as though they were one of the most talented improvisers in the world. She would do that show and make them look great. And that helped her grow over time by playing with different people and not just limiting herself to the best improvisers in the world. She played with everybody. So if you have restrictions in your head, you're I don't want to play with that person because they deny me a lot, or I don't want to play with that person because I don't like their object work, then you are limiting yourself. You need to play with these people. That is how you are going to become better on stage. I always say create goals, folks. If you're on stage with someone who maybe you don't work well with, who's complicated on stage, make a goal. I'm gonna have a good scene with them. Don't go on stage regretting going on stage with this person and think, oh, I'm gonna have a terrible scene. No, go on stage and think, we're gonna have the best scene in the world. Doug, we're gonna have the best scene in the world. We don't click very well, but tonight we're gonna click. Have that mentality when you go on stage. It's gonna make you a better improviser. Thank you so much for watching this MUT tip video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like down below, comment with maybe something you would like addressed in a future video, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Facebook, all that fun stuff. I will see you next Tuesday for another episode of MUT Tips, baby. See you then, bye.